What's up, everybody? I'm Dave Gates. This is the Solo Musician Podcast, and this is episode number 3. The best way to predict the future is to create it. That's a Peter Drucker quote, and I've found that very instrumental in moving me forward in my life. And I completely understand that you can't prepare for obstacles or variables that you don't know are coming. Okay, so you're going to have things that pop up that you're going to have to deal with on the fly. But if you set yourself up with a certain level of professionalism and an idea of where you're going, it can make it easier to adapt to all of those variables as they present themselves, okay? You know, one of the biggest things that I tell musicians just starting out, if they ask for advice, is that if you want to be treated and paid like a professional, you should conduct yourself like one, okay? So don't be a creep, show up early, be a generous tipper, don't get drunk. You know, the list goes on and on and on. But the reality is that the path to becoming a successful solo musician starts way before you get the gig. It starts when you email the venue or you meet the booker. It starts when you drop off a business card or, give a firm handshake. When you understand that you're the salesperson and the product is you. You know, give the venues a reason, give them 100 reasons to book you, okay? Make them actively find a reason not to book you, all right? So in episode 3, I'm going to talk all about the things that I found were foundational blocks for this house of music I was building, all right? All these things that I found help me showcase my professionalism, make it easier to talk to bookers, make it easier to get more gigs, to get higher paying gigs. All of those things were possible because of identifying what was within my control and what was not within my control, okay? Very simple. It's a valuable time and energy management tool when you start seeing things as within your control or not within your control. Because if something isn't within your control and you identify it, you can prepare for it, but that sits in the back of your mind. It's not occupying the same space as the things that you're actively trying to get better at or progress at or things that you can do something about. So number one of the things you could do something about that I've found is, my communication with bookers when getting a gig. So I have a professional email, davegatesbooking@gmail.com. When I started out, I had davegates08@gmail.com. It didn't mean anything. It was a personal email. Your email is a simple and free way to appear professional, and it really can set you apart from others. If somebody messages a booker and their email is flapjack long tits or something at gmail.com, it doesn't appear professional. If it's your name booking, then they know that's specifically an email for you to get booked. All right? Easy thing there that you can do. Another thing I do is whenever I email a venue or a booker, I keep it concise. Keep it to the point. All right? This is my name. This is what I specialize in. Here's some links to videos of me performing live. And make sure that they're live performance videos. Don't send him something that's, perfectly produced from the studio. Okay? You're not playing in a studio atmosphere, most likely. If you are, send him that. But otherwise, try to send a couple links of you performing live. That's what I do. And, here's some links to my socials to show how active I am and how I promote my shows. Here's my website. I hope to hear from you. Have a great day. That should be it. That you don't need to send more than that, I don't think. Don't bore them with a million details. Just give them enough info so they have an idea of who you are. And then show them what you do. Okay? I let my videos sell me to the booker. I let my videos and my professionalism and my short email, I let that sell me to the booker. So I don't give them a million details. Just keep it concise. And then, after I send the email, I don't hound the booker. I send it, and then I forget about him for like 2 weeks at least. And if I don't hear back, I'll send up like one follow-up email. And then if I don't hear back, I just move on. A good way of not getting into a venue is if you just hound the booker over and over. Most of the time, you'll end up in their spam folder, or they'll just stop taking a look at your messages. So just keep that in mind whenever you're getting ready to mash that send button on the 100th email to that booker. You're just yelling into a void at that point. So I use Facebook Messenger and the venue website and their email, whatever email they might have available. I use all three of those. So I'll message all three of them at once, and I find that gives me the best chance of getting a reply. All right, we're going to move on from getting the gig to actually arriving at the gig. All right, when we arrive is completely within our control. So get there early. Right? I get there early. I get there at least an hour before I start. I'm allowing time for things to go wrong. And if they don't, I have extra time to chill and decompress before getting on stage. Most of the time, nothing goes wrong, which is awesome. But I have times where there's a bad cable or, a interference with my in-ears, or there's a million things that can go wrong. So just try to get there early enough to rectify those issues before your start time, right? And then when I get there, I walk up and I introduce myself to the staff right away. Like, I don't go in and just sit down somewhere or go get a drink or start carrying equipment in right away. I go in, introduce myself, and then I talk to the manager or whoever I need to find out where I'm supposed to set up and where the closest electric is. And, it makes you look professional whenever you come in, you introduce yourself, you find out what's going on. That it just all lends itself to the professionality of it, rather than just, like I said, carrying your gear in and nobody knows who you are and nobody, you know what I mean? They're not expecting you an hour early, so just go say hey. Okay, the third thing that I've identified as within our control is how we treat the staff. Be courteous, don't be creepy. I see a lot of guys that are out there that will go up and flirt with the bartender or the service staff or, unwanted advances, and then you creep everybody out. And then you're known as the creepy dude. So don't be the creepy dude, okay? That's very easy to do. If you want to flirt with whoever, do it outside of while you're working. It's just be a professional, okay? Tip the bartender who gets your food and drink, and tip them very heavily. Even if you're only drinking water, toss them a $5 or $10, okay? They're there. They're keeping you hydrated and fed and everything else. So just make sure you're taking care of them, because if you take care of them, that reflects positively on you again. Okay, you see how all these are setting up? It's like a snowball of things that make you stand out from others. Okay, pump up the service staff, pump up the staff, pump them up, or whatever. Do that while you're on stage. Make it fun, talk about your favorite bartender, your favorite server. If you don't know anyone there, just talk about how everybody's hustling and take care of the customers. If they're not, you'll probably get a look from the crowd. But, 9 times out of 10, the servers are being attentive. So try to pump them up and drive some tips into their pockets as well. And then when you're leaving, it's beneficial to seek out the person that you talked to whenever you first got there about electric and all that. Seek them out and say thank you. Okay, if they're still there, just be like, hey, thanks for letting me play. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the next one. Leave them with a positive feeling of your being there. Okay? Very simple, very easy. This is something we can control. Okay? Another thing that's within our control is our sound. If your sound sucks, people will leave, no matter how good you are. So if your sound sounds like whale flatulence, or it's too bassy, or it's too much reverb, or just control your sound. If you're working with half-rate gear, if cables are buzzing, people will leave. Okay? So just try to keep that in mind, that if it sounds like shit to you, it's going to sound like shit to other people. Another thing that I always try to do is I turn it down. And I know that sounds weird, but as a solo musician, a lot of the gigs that we play, the people aren't there to hear us. At least as a solo cover musician. You know, they didn't buy tickets. They weren't like, I want to have Ravioli and Dave Gates play music tonight. Like that didn't cross their mind. You just happened to be there when they got there. So turn it down. Okay, I turn it down, and then I make the venue or people ask me to turn it up. You know, the venue, the patrons, they're all going to appreciate that. And they will definitely tell you if it's too quiet. I've never really had venues come up to me and ask me to turn it down. But I've had a few come up to me and ask me to turn it up. And I'd way rather field that than people leaving because my sound's too loud. Because people will also leave if your sound is too loud. So if it sucks, they're going to leave. And if it's too loud, they're going to leave. It doesn't matter how good you are. Okay? So just try to keep that in mind. And like run pro gear. I know, I understand it's not affordable. But when you make an investment in better gear, you're literally making an investment in yourself. Because that gear is going to make you sound as good as you possibly can. And that should be your goal for every gig, is to sound as good as you possibly can. Whenever I get in there, I'm never worried about, well, does my sound okay? You know, does it check all the boxes? Because I bought pro gear. I had myself set it up. I had other people set it up. I've had, my friend Kevin Nelson go through and teach me some things on audio engineering. So just make sure that you don't skimp on your gear. Because if you skimp on your production, that's the first thing people are going to notice about you. You know, if you're walking in carrying carpeted speakers and you've got a dollar store microphone, there's a good chance that people are going to leave. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And one other piece of advice I can offer is when I'm playing in like a naturally bouncing room, I turn off my reverb. Okay, most solo musicians are playing in corners of hard surface rooms. That's usually where I find myself. And they're not rooms designed to handle live music. So when you turn down your reverb, it makes the people in the back of the room be able to enjoy the music as well. So the people up front might hear a little bit more of your pitchiness or mistakes, but the people in the back won't just hear a garbled mess of notes. All right, does that make sense? Okay, moving on to the next one. The next thing within our control is our cover song choices. Now, this is obviously only going to apply to people who play cover music, but some things that I've found helpful when it comes to choosing the right songs is, number one, read the room. I try to read the room and get a feel for what they like. So I start out by playing only the songs I want to play initially. So anything that's been on my mind lately, anything I've been practicing, anything that is fresh and makes me feel interested. Okay, so I play exactly what I feel like playing. And if the crowd responds really well, I'm just watching them most of the time. I keep doing that until they start requesting songs. So some nights I'll just end up playing only things I want to play for 3-4 hours. And that is a beautiful thing whenever you're in synergy with the crowd and you're playing the music you want and they're listening to the music you want to play. That doesn't always happen, and sometimes you'll get requests. So once you do get requests, make sure you play those requests right away, and they're going to encourage more requests. So anytime I get a request, it goes right to the top of my list, as long as it's something I can play. And every single time, requests equal tips, requests equal more requests. I would rather have the crowd dictate the show to me, and that way there I know I'm kind of playing all the music they want to hear, rather than me get up there and play everything that I want to play. I don't know if that makes sense, but and a lot of times I was talking to Liz Chrome about this, and it's incredible to me how many times the songs I want to play and the songs the audience request kind of merge. And like I said a little bit ago, it's if they're requesting music, I know that there's at least one person that wants to hear that song. So all of a sudden, their song that they want to hear becomes something that I want to play. So, that's how I treat it. Everybody's going to be different. So, and if you don't do cover songs, then none of this applies to you, right? So, also devote time to learning different genres and heavily requested songs. Like, I didn't get to my current catalog of songs by going, I don't like that. I don't like that either. I just went, okay, what does everybody want to hear? What can I kind of vibe with? All right, they're requesting a lot of this artist, and I hate most of his music, but I can find one song that I like, and then I'll just use that. That'll be my cover of that artist. So, devoting a bunch of time to learning those genres and gives you a wider range of music in your repertoire. And that can help you stand out among other acts, as well as give you a larger group of venues that you can play. Because if you're just a country guy, you can play just country venues. If you're just a rock guy, you're playing just rock venues. If you're just a jazz guy, you're playing just jazz venues. But if you can play all the things, you're playing all the venues. It's now opened up all those venues. So try to expand the breadth of songs you play, and it'll make you a better cover musician, okay? Also, know your range. I know my vocal range, and I live in it. I play everything that I can find inside of it. I can't sing a C6 at all, and I won't try. But when I'm performing inside my range, I'm working to expand everything inside of there, and that has given me a really good base of songs that I can kind of nail every time, while I'm also working on expanding that. So try to figure out where your range is, and you'll be able to make progress in that area. Okay. Another thing that is within our control is our stage presence. We should probably act like we're meant to be there, right? Whether the patrons or staff or anybody else knows it, you were booked to perform. So act like you're meant to be there. Confidence in your ability to entertain from the stage equates to confidence from the audience in your ability to entertain them. It's literally hand in hand. If you don't look like you can entertain them, you can't entertain them. If that makes sense, I think it does. Also, smile more. When I'm on stage, there's so many people that come to see me that they're always, after the show, they come up and they say, "You're smiling the whole time you're up there, man. You look like you're enjoying it. You look like you're having a good time. It's contagious." The amount of times I've heard it was contagious, that's when I started to go, oh, yeah, no, if I'm having a good time, then they're having a good time. Don't take it so seriously. You're making noise. Like I'm making noise. No matter how beautiful it is, I'm making noise for a living. So it's literally vibrations in ear holes. And it's not the end of the world when you miss a note. So one of the rookie mistakes a lot of guys make is they'll miss a note when they're playing a part, or they'll miss a note when they're singing, and you'll see it on their face. You'll see it. They'll say something over the microphone like, oh, messed that up. Oh, got that wrong. But show some self-confidence, and it goes a long way. Nobody notices you missing that note except for the guy in the back of the room that's not performing that night and is there to criticize you, basically. So just have fun. Other people aren't going to if you're not. So just try to keep that in mind. It's your job to dictate the mood of the performance or the crowd or the audience or the night. If you don't think that's true, try playing like 3 slow, boring songs back to back and just watch the crowd. You have way more control over the crowd than you might think you do. And you're going to have a lot more control over them if you make it a point to actively dictate the mood or the vibe of the room. So slow songs, they're melancholy, they're beautiful, they're a good place to showcase your depth and connect with the crowd and make them feel something, okay? Fast songs, high energy. Now you're getting them up, you're getting them moving, you're raising the vibe of the room with those faster songs. So just know, my rule, and this is just my rule, but I try to do like 4 or 5, 6 faster songs, and then like a medium pace song, and then 4 or 5 faster songs, and then a slow song. And it seems to really dictate the energy and the rise and fall of the energy in the room pretty well. So works for me. Maybe it'll work for you. All right, moving on. The next thing that I think is within our control is our crowd interaction. And that's not the same as stage presence in my mind. Stage presence is how you look on the stage. Our crowd interaction is how we actually like get into the crowd, okay? Engage the crowd. If there's no crowd, just play for the people that booked you. So they book you again. But if there's a crowd, take requests, which we covered earlier. Taking requests is a great way to get the crowd feeling like they're part of the show. And try to identify when you should be engaging the crowd or not. There's a lot of places that I play that I am just background music. And you should be okay with just being background music when you're a solo musician. But at those shows, I might talk to the crowd a couple times. I look at them. I stare at them creepily from the stage. But I don't necessarily try to, engage them actively. So just know when you're supposed to do that, and that just comes with time, and realizing what venue you're in. But if you're in a noisy or unforgiving room as well, keep the talking to a minimum, because you got to remember that while the people up front might be able to hear you opining about your journey with this song or why you're playing the next selection you're playing, the people in the back are just hearing, and that's not fun. You'll leave. I'll leave if a guy's talking too much. That's one of the things that will get me to leave a show if I go out to see somebody. So keep the talking to a minimum, unless you're in a room where you can do a lot of talking. All right. And, our crowd interaction also involves, like, don't bring down the vibe. So don't get up there. I don't get up and tell everybody what's going wrong in my life. I don't get up and complain about traffic. I don't do anything to bring down the vibe. Okay. So, I find that helps to just be aware of that and, avoid it. Okay. Next thing that I think is within our control is our gratitude. And I know I can hear the eye rolls, but our gratitude for getting the gig should be visible. Okay. should be palpable. We should be able to convey that without even saying it. I mean, we're getting paid to make noise. So be grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful every time I get on stage, no matter where that is, no matter what's going on. When I get up there, I can't believe I'm getting paid to make music. So, be grateful for the people who don't leave whenever you set up. Okay? There's so many people that leave when I start setting up at shows. And I don't take it personal. Those people that are leaving are not people that wanted to listen to me play. They've also probably had a bad experience with a solo musician along the way. All those things that we covered before. They probably had somebody that they've experienced that had less than professional gear, that didn't interact with the crowd, that didn't take requests, that, the list goes on, that didn't seem grateful or thankful for being there, that complained. So all these things tie together to keep people in their seats. And don't be worried about the people that leave. You can't control them. So just be grateful for who stays. Gratitude pays dividends in pretty much every aspect of your life. So if you practice gratitude in this, it'll bleed into other areas. The next thing that I think is within our control is the type of venues that we play. Actively seeking the type of venues that I like to play gets me into venues I like to play. And for you, whether that's dive bars or restaurants or theaters or wineries, breweries, private parties, gas stations, funerals, bar mitzvahs, roadside taco stands, whatever your thing is, just figure out what your thing is and what you enjoy the most, and then target those first whenever you're booking gigs. If you feel like you're a good fit at a place, then go after it, all right? If you don't get a good feeling during the booking process, bail. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but if you're going through a booking process and the booker's rude or the owner's rude or the staff doesn't seem super happy there, or just look for red flags. Are they telling you can't play slow songs like I covered in a previous episode? How do you feel about that? So we're in control of the type of venues that we play. So seek the ones that fit you. And if a venue's not a good fit and you have more dates booked there, just finish out your dates. I had a venue last year that was not a good fit. Okay. I had booked 4 dates with them. The first date was shaky. The second date was terrible. I didn't enjoy it, but I finished out my dates. We're professionals. So be a professional, finish out your dates, and then just don't go back. Don't cancel those remaining dates. Okay. You can use those, I use them as a opportunity to work on my adaptability and resilience, when playing in a challenging environment. So just use those as a opportunity to work on that stuff. Don't just cancel the gigs. All right. Moving on. The last thing that I want to highlight is something that's within our control in this episode is our compensation. Okay. Know your worth. And if you don't know your worth, just go back to episode 2 and maybe you'll get a better idea of how to value yourself. But, if you say yes to low paying or bad gigs, you're going to say no to higher paying or great gigs. You can't create more days or more time to play. So be selective in which ones you take and make sure they meet your baseline. All right. Don't accept less than your baseline when booking any gigs. I have a specific number in my head whenever I talk to a venue, and it's not always the same. Consider the money, the comps, creative control, travel, self-fulfillment. Consider all of that for each individual venue, and you can determine what you charge from there. It's not going to be the same, but you should have a general idea of what you require to feel compensated, and make sure that you get that. because that is, if you make compensation something that's in your control, you're actively trying to control the amount of money that you make, or, whatever comps or anything like that you get, you'll control it. Okay. So that is all of the things that I want to cover in this episode as things that are in our control. So now that we're half an hour into this, thanks again for hanging out, everybody. I hope this is helpful, and I really appreciate all the feedback I've been getting. I mean, it's been consistent. Every day I'm talking to somebody about something about the podcast. So I'm always available for anybody that thinks I might have something to help them, some advice that they might be able to get from me that'll help them. solomusicianpodcast@gmail.com is the email address here. And, if I know what to tell you, I'll tell you. And if I don't, I'll refer you to somebody else that I think can. All right. It'll be our little deal. So let's cover some things that are not in our control. All right. What are things that are not in your control as a musician? The audience, or lack of. All right. Now, I know I was like, stage presence, engage the crowd. The audience is not in your control. Who shows up is not in your control. If nobody shows up, that's not on you. If you've done your part, let's put it that way. If you've done your part to advertise and you have a professional sound, you couldn't have done more. All right. Play for who's there. The audience is not in our control. If they're rude, learn to crack some jokes. You're going to have to let some stuff roll off your back. Don't fight the customers, all right? Don't pass them a note with an address down the street and hash it out after the show. Don't fight the customers. You're not going to be asked back. This is very hard to do sometimes, but it's part of being a professional, all right? Most of the time, if you're in a restaurant environment, remember, they're not there for you. So just be okay with being background music and use the time to get better at performing. That's what I use it for. I always use it as like a practice almost for other gigs where people are more engaged or the crowd is better. All right. Another thing that's not in your control is the venue's advertisement of the gig. Don't depend on the venue to advertise your gig. Do your part to advertise where you'll be. So that includes like having a calendar of events on your website, on your Facebook. Start a bands in town, put them on there, anywhere else that people can see it. Because the more proactive you are in advertising it yourself, the less you have to depend on the venue, because they are not in your control. What you can do is send them a co-host request when you're hosting an event on Facebook. Do the work for them, and they will thank you, okay? And if they don't approve the co-host request, that's on them, not on you, all right? That's not in your control. The next thing I don't think is within our control is the place where we set up inside the venue. All right. A lot of times the venue chooses where we set up. So if it's not an ideal location, I'll usually ask them if I can set up somewhere I find more suitable. Like if they have me in a hallway away from all the patrons or something, I'll see if I can set up in the corner of the bar in the tiniest space ever. And, sometimes they say no. And if the answer's no, the answer's no. You set up where you're instructed then and play your heart out. But I always try to move it if I can. If I identify that as a problem, I try to move it. But that's not in your control. Sometimes you're just going to be on a stage 400 feet away from the closest person, and that's where you're going to play your show. So try not to get too down about that, right? The next thing that I think is not in our control is audio issues from in-house sound. All right. I played at Tony Loco's last night, and the sound there was perfect. They have an in-house sound system. They give me a mixer. I plug all my stuff into that, and the sound is incredible. That's not always the case. All right. It's completely outside of your control whenever a venue's in-house sound is junk. While it would definitely benefit you to learn some basic audio troubleshooting, the responsibility in this case falls on the venue. So it's not in your control. You can do what you can to help. If the in-house sound is terrible and the venue thinks it's terrible, don't tell them their sound is shit if they don't think it's shit. Ask if you can use your equipment. All right. As a general rule, I always bring my live sound setup to every gig, no matter whether they have in-house sound or not. So try to always bring your equipment along, and you'll have it there as a backup for unexpected in-house issues. And that's a way to show your professionalism and your preparedness, okay? So it's another way to stand out against other guys that would be like, nah, I don't have anything to do this show now, so bye. All right, moving on. The parking and load-in situation is not in your control. All right, some places suck. They suck to get into. They suck to try to load your stuff in, to find where you got to go. Some of them just suck. All right, do a little bit of research before you go to see what the parking is like there. Because you can't control where you park when you arrive to the venue. Some venues have street parking. Sometimes there's no spots available. I've had to park 4 or 5 blocks away from a venue before and carry all of my gear. All right. You may have to park down the block, or in a parking lot way further away from the venue. So try to scout the parking situation prior to arriving to the venue, and then leave ample time for more difficult parking situations. You can't control the distance from your vehicle to the stage. Some places I play, it's literally like a 700 to 800 foot walk to get my equipment from the car to the stage. And that is a long walk when you're carrying heavy gear. So you can control your ability to haul your gear back and forth a little bit better, though. At the gym, I like to do farmer carry exercises. They're incredible for grip and carry strength. So if you're looking for something to help you be able to carry your gear further, I can't recommend those enough. And sometimes whenever I get to a venue, I'll have to park in front of the venue, blocking a bunch of cars or in a handicap space to load in. That's 100% normal at almost all of the downtown venues that I play in the larger metropolitan areas. So if this is the case, I put on my 4-ways and I'm mindful of anybody trying to leave that I'm blocking. So I'll offer to move or I'll do whatever I need to do. But I get my stuff in and I move my vehicle to where it's going to rest, its gig resting place, as quickly as I possibly can. And I've found that venues appreciate that. The customers appreciate that. It's just something simple that you can do to be different than the guy that doesn't do it. All right. Next thing that's not in our control is the traffic or weather conditions. Okay. You can't control traffic or weather. The only thing you can do is be a little bit more prepared for it. Most gigs at restaurants during the week are like 6 to 9 p.m. or 7 to 10 p.m. So depending on your location in relation to the venue, you may have to leave your house a lot earlier to arrive an hour earlier than your start time, which is what we covered earlier about being early. So, utilize the Waze app or other traffic tracking apps to ensure you're going to be on time. I say Waze because in Waze, and I don't know about other apps, but in Waze, you can schedule a future trip. You can put in, I want to be at venue X at 5 p.m. and it'll tell you when to leave. It'll vibrate your phone. It'll tell you if there's traffic on the route that you need to leave earlier. So just try to utilize those to help out. Because sometimes you're going to have to leave much earlier. I played a gig in Hagerstown last year, and I left my house at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't get to the venue till 6:30. Now I started at 7:30, so I was still within an hour. But that drive normally is an hour and a half long. But whenever I was at home, I noticed that there was 2 accidents on the route, and it was a Friday. So Fridays are already ridiculous with traffic around that time. So just be aware of the transit time that it takes to get to where you're going. If you're a professional, you'll be treated like one. This is what we're talking about in this whole episode. Arriving on time is just another part of being a professional. And that's going to bring us to the last item that I'd like to identify as something that's not in our control. And like I said, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just whenever I sat down and started thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. So the last thing that I'd like to say is not in our control is the owner or booker's attitude, okay? You can't control who books or who owns a venue that you want to perform at. They may not like you, or more likely, they may not have any idea who you are. So just keep this in mind when you're talking to them, and remember, you're always selling yourself to them, so don't make yourself sound terrible. Some bookers are incredible people, and some are assholes, okay? Don't do business with people you don't want to do business with. A venue with a shitty owner is a red flag for me personally. So if their owner is not good, or not good to people, or not good to fellow musicians, I'm thinking of one specific person right now. But if they're not a good person, I don't want to play there. I don't care how cool their bar is. So just kind of remember that it's not something that's in your control. But if you don't want to do business with that business owner, just move on. All right. By identifying and understanding how to grow and nurture the things that are within our control, we lay the foundation to succeed in anything we do in life. This reaches way beyond music, okay? This is a time and energy management system that you can implement in pretty much anything you're trying to be the best at. Once you identify the things that you can actually improve on, and the things that you couldn't improve on if you wanted to, you spend way more time developing the things that you can actually improve on. So that's the whole gist of this podcast. I appreciate everybody that listened, and you guys are making me feel heard out there. So thank you for that. Thank you for the topic suggestions. Thank you for the comments and the feedback each week. Next week is going to be a super special episode for me. It's going to be my origin story, how all this got started. And if you've ever been to a show or you took a brief read of my website, you know that a homeless man gave me a guitar now 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And that is what started the wheels in motion for me to become what I am today. Okay. For me to be able to quit my job 2 years ago and do this full time. This is what the backstory is, and it is a magical and powerful story. And I don't say that as a conceited person. I say that because every time I tell this story, or people discover me, or people read my bio, the reaction from everyone is always one of, well, that is an incredible origin. So I'm going to discuss that next week, and hopefully, if you're struggling right now, or if you're, feeling run down or feeling stuck in your life, I'm hoping that next week's episode gives you some inspiration, gives you a little bit of the kick that you need to be receptive to your life changing. So that's what's coming up next week. Right now, I just want to jump into a couple Facebook comments and stuff. I had posted a post on the Solo Musician Podcast Facebook page discussing iPad use. And the reason why I did that, Rachel Rocks from Pennsylvania Musician Magazine was out at one of my shows, and she snapped some pictures, and she posted those online, and somebody commented on her pictures, and basically a disparaging comment about people using iPads. So I kind of wanted to see what everybody's feedback was on that. And the general consensus was, if you're using an iPad and you're still engaging the crowd, and you're not just staring at it, and reading it like a novel, that it's accepted. It's not frowned upon. In fact, it's it's almost the norm now. So I know for myself personally, I play so many songs that it would be impossible for me to be able to recall all of them from memory. So I'd rather have something up there on stage with me to give me the ability to play songs that I'm not 100% on, to make people's evenings better. So thank you for everybody for your feedback on the iPad subject. Justin Murphy Music asked me a question about venues, and his question was, whenever you reach out to a venue, you message them or you call them or you text them or whatever you do, whenever they don't answer, how do you deal with that? How do you not get discouraged? Because you're expecting a certain level of professionalism. So as a professional, you are contacting this venue, and a lot of times they just won't respond. And I responded to him online a little bit, but I'll share my thoughts on that. I figure whenever I reach out to a venue, I'm hoping that they respond. If they don't, I don't let that get me down anymore. I've had a million venues not respond, and it's more of like that is the norm for a venue to not respond. You don't know who the booker is or who they know or who the friend of the friend of the friend that books for them is. So you don't have a natural in at any of these places. I send out around 700 booking emails or Facebook messages every September when I'm trying to fill my calendar for the following year. And out of those 700, about 10% get returned. So that's the law of averages, for me at least. And out, I have 70 venues there. That's enough for me to play for the entire year. I can play all of them twice, and I'm fine. You got to be willing to send out a million emails. I think that, and try not to get discouraged. Like I said, you don't know what's going on with that booker. You don't know if you're even going to be a good fit. Just try to send out as many as you can, cast a wide net, and you'll have a better chance of getting a response. So great question though, Justin. And like I said, if I can give you any advice on it, man, just email as many venues as you can. All right, moving on. We got Mark Franks said, talk a little bit about what to do with shots or beers sent up to the stage whenever you're playing. And I struggled with this a lot when I was starting out. I used to get hammered. I have friends, Tracy and Ron, and they moved south now, but they used to come to my shows, and I remember one specific show where they kept sending shots of Red Stag up to me. And within an hour or so, I was almost too drunk to play the show. Some guys can do it. I'm not that guy. I thought I was. I have confirmed I am 100% not that guy. Couple shots and my guitar playing goes sloppy. My voice starts to hurt. So I had to figure out a way to turn those down and get the money that they were going to spend on that drink into my tip bucket. So there's a few things that I've found helped. All right. So number one, I don't get shots while I'm playing. So people don't see me taking shots, so they don't think to send me shots. All right. Number two, most of the time I don't even drink a beer on stage. Now I'll have one or two, but usually they're off to the side. They're not quite sitting up there with me, so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I've been a little bit more proactive with that lately than I have in the past. But I've found that helps. Nobody's trying to buy me a beer if they don't think I'm drinking a beer. Keep a water on stage. Also, be very comfortable with turning down those shots. A lot of people will ask you before they buy you something. So if they ask you, hey, do you want a shot or a beer? Very politely, no thank you. No thank you. But if you want to help out, like, I do need gas money. Make it fun. Make it funny. Make them feel bad. I don't know. Do whatever you have to get the money into your tip bucket. But, a lot of times I'll just say, hey, thanks. I appreciate the offer, but I don't really like to drink a whole lot when I'm on stage. But if you throw some money in the bucket, or if you buy me a drink, like a chip, some bars give a chip, or they'll, print you out a slip with a free drink on it. Just see if they'll do that, or see if they'll throw some money in for after the show or whatever into your bucket. All right. But, you don't have to take the drinks. And then let's put it this way. If it makes it to the stage for me and I don't want it, I will make sure that I say it over the microphone. I'll be like, hey, thanks. I appreciate the shot. Thank you so much. I don't normally drink when I'm playing, though, so I'm going to save this for after the show. And there won't be another shot that comes up to the stage then, usually. And that thing will sit there. I'll let it sit until the end of the show. I didn't ask for it. I shouldn't feel bad for having it up there, but I will drink it, most likely. Or I'll put it in a plant, or I'll accidentally set it on the bar whenever I'm leaving. But I've found by implementing a couple of those things that I pretty much never get shots sent to the stage anymore. So that's worked well for me. So hopefully some of those points will help you as well. All right, let's go over some shows for this week. Walker's Tap and Table I have coming up on Wednesday night. That is the 24th of January, 6 to 9 p.m. That's in Glenwood, Maryland, kind of central, I guess, Western Maryland. Great spot. Their food is beyond incredible. Great staff there. Good spot. The in-house sound is great. So not a bad seat in the entire restaurant. You can hear me anywhere. All right, including the bathrooms, which is beneficial, I think. All right. Then Friday, I'm going to be at the Carlisle Club. That's a private club in Carlisle. If you're not a member, can't help you there. I don't know how to get you in. But I'll be at the Carlisle Club 7:30 to 11. On Saturday, the 27th, I'll be going out to Lebanon Valley Craft Brewery for the first time, okay? I'm going to be there 5:30 to 8:30 p.m., playing a bunch of music, doing some dancing, signing babies, doing whatever I need to do to keep doing this. And then, so if you're in the area, please come out. Please come out. That's how I get to come back to these places, is by you showing up. So Lebanon Valley Craft Brewery on the 27th. And then I'm going to be in Milton, Delaware on Sunday, the 28th at Twin Branch Winery. That is 2 to 5 p.m. on Sunday, the 28th. And I love Twin Branch Winery. So if you get a chance and you're in the Milton, Delaware area, please come out. It is one of the best wineries I think I've ever been to. The staff there is incredible. All the wines are perfect. I sampled all of them and then had to sit there and sober up while Derrick Henry was playing during the summer this year. So it's back a really long driveway. You feel like you're in Jurassic Park. It feels interesting. That's what she said. So just, if you're in Milton, I'd love to see you. All right. That easy. Just come check out a new spot there. That concludes this week. And like I said, next week I'll be checking in with you, sharing my story of the homeless man that changed my life. And I'm also going to try to get a Thursday Thoughts episode out. And thank you for all the feedback on that as well. It was nice to get on and talk about something other than music. So, and to know that you guys were receptive to it. So, all right, easy enough. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you later.